I'm Warren, and you're watching The Vibe, and we are with B and the Hive. They are out of the Space Coast area, do some gigs in Space Coast and Treasure Coast, and I'd like them to introduce themselves. So why don't you guys tell me who you are and what you do.
Well, thank you, Warren, first of all, for having us on this great show.
You're very welcome.
It's great. Yep.
Yeah.
Good.
My name is B. Zander, and I'm in the band B and the Hive.
She is the bee, by the way.
And
The big queen bee.
I could be Queen Bee.
Yeah.
And here is Major Core B, Dave McDonald.
My name is Dave McDonald. I live here in West Melbourne, and I play mandolin in the Hive, and have a great time with
Mandolin.
Mandolin.
You have a Gibson?
Not yet.
Okay.
But I've got a good collection going on right now, so we're working on it.
Excellent. And you sing?
I do. I sing. I love to sing harmony. I love to sing with Dave, who is a terrific singer, and I play guitar.
Oh, cool. And it's Americana?
You would
Yeah.
call it Americana roots. We are that's a very broad terminology for a lot of different music from the turn of the century on up to a lot of the music you hear these days has got the roots from the roots.
Absolutely.
That's where it comes from.
And what are your influences? Like what kind of music? What would you say Everybody sounds original, but who would you say makes up your sound if you were to take bands?
Oh, well, do you want to start, or should
No,
I
you
start?
go right ahead.
As far as current musicians that are out there, I'm a huge follower of Gillian Welch and David Rawlings. I think that they have done
I know David Rawlings.
the kind of music that I reach towards and that I naturally do, and the sources are the same.
Mm-hmm.
Appalachian music, certain kinds of acoustic music, folk music that tells stories, people singing together in a natural sort of community fashion. I love that real naturalness in the music.
And
sense of focus.
you do like add rhythmic type of stuff to it, or is it mostly all folky?
It's very rhythmic because of David.
Okay.
Well, actually, a mandolin in a bluegrass group, everyone thinks of a mandolin as a bluegrass instrument, but actually it's a very ancient Italian instrument from way back when, and Bach and Beethoven and Mozart, they all wrote for mandolin.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's been around for a long time, and Bill Monroe finding with the bluegrass boys.
Scooch in a little bit.
Here we go. He played mandolin, and in a bluegrass group, the mandolin is considered the rhythmic instrument. It is the snare drum of the group, so that's why there's no drums in a bluegrass thing. So the mandolin's always playing on the backbeat, so it's got they call it a chop or a bark. Your mandolin's got a bark, and it is really more of a rhythmic device than anything else. And everyone thinks that you're just playing melodies, but actually 95% of the time we're just
rhythmic, right?
See,
I'm a guitar player and a singer, and I cheat when I play guitar, where as I'm singing, I know that I can't play, like I can't focus on playing, like I don't have the brain that says I could do both 100%.
at the same time. Yep.
So my guitar playing is all rhythmic, whereas usually the other guys in the band are filling out the space.
That's
for
like me. I tend to do the
Just to
structure
fill.
of the song. I do a lot of rhythm guitar. It's essentially what I sometimes I do Piedmont blues, which is another subject. Certain kind of
Right.
finger picking with the bass.
Do you find that your breathing affects your strumming? Like
Oh.
your strumming rhythm is affected by your vocal pattern or your breathing pattern?
That's a great question. I'll just have to sit on that.
Yeah,
It does with you, right?
It does with me, absolutely, because I have to
Oh.
kind of flip the switch to say I'm either going to give more vocal or I'm going to give more guitar.
Do you mean it's full body? It's like a full body thing.
Yes.
Like I am moving or I'm tapping, and I'm in the music. It's physiological.
Okay.
As the mandolin player, I've got to be very consistent and everything, but I do know that if I am singing or thinking about a harmony and such, I cannot pick a melody out on the mandolin at the same time, so it is one or the other.
Oh,
so as I'm
okay.
singing, I am basically strumming along. And
Can you you can't follow your vocal pattern? I can't follow, like Jimi Hendrix Voodoo Child, you know how he follows
Yeah.
the vocal pattern of the guitar?
And
I
he was
can't
actually
sing and play
playing
the
it-
same notes that I'm singing.
Well, I find that to keep track of what's going on in the music, I am always singing the melody in my head. So that is
Okay.
given that. So yes, I can mimic if I would be thinking in my head, but actually to be actually singing at the same time. And also it's a whole different skill to sing a harmony while you're playing the melody. Those are two things going off, and sometimes our brains can't quite grasp that, or it's really good to do that.
Well, I think, see, if you're musicians, we say that drummers are not real musicians. But when you think about it, the only guys that can actually do 4 rhythms at
the same time,
polyrhythm guy, I don't know how they do it. It's the only instrument I can't learn or play because I can't get both my feet and both my arms to do independent things. I
think the more one does that, it works into place. For example, I was in a duo called Bee and Boo for around 20 years. And we played in Appalachia. We lived north of Asheville, in Marshall, North Carolina.
Have you guys met Scott Hungel?
Yes, I've met him.
He's an Appalachian boy, too. So
yeah,
you probably have a good talk.
We're part of the Space Coast Harley-Davidson house band, Scott, too.
Yep.
And there's a lot of people in that band.
It's very eclectic.
I'm going to interact with some of his stuff.
Have you heard him sing?
Not yet.
Oh, God, he's got a great voice.
Oh, God, that's great. So I love country music. And we followed through a lot of that in my duo. And then we bring that into the Hive. The Hive has a real country music backbone, I think. Just not new country, but old-time country, Appalachian.
And I heard what people probably wouldn't know is that Jack Starr plays in the Hive, too, right?
Yes, in fact, he does.
So not only is it Jack Starr's Burning Star and Black Star kicking ass at Space Coast Harley-Davidson, but he's also a member of Be in the Hive. So there's some little bit of extra star power bonus coming to you guys playing some Appalachian music.
And for me, it's great because I have the melodies. It's great melodies are coming out of David all the time, and then Jack, and I'm just there on rhythm guitar and mostly lead singing or singing. You do leads too, but it's astonishing to hear what comes out of these very melodic players.
Oh yeah.
I also think it's very interesting. A lot of times playing with Jack, we'll be playing some old time tune, and he'll say, "Oh, that's where Megadeth got this tune."
Right?
Hey, they copied that right there because
it's amazing.
Again, it's roots.
Yeah.
And all music is good music. We're playing with the same 8 notes on a regular basis, and there's only so many chord patterns. And if you got a good idea, hey.
I always used to tell guys, they always say, "Well, how do I start getting a band together?" And I go buy a really good fake book, and it'll get you through 100 songs right away in the same chords, and then you can just expand from there. A
lot of those people come to the Rock the Porch Jam. In Melbourne Beach, Florida, for many, many years, I have been running the Rock the Porch Jam. And what that is, there's a community center, the Melbourne Beach Old Town Hall History Center in Florida on the Space Coast. Every second and fourth Saturday at 1 o'clock, people come from the community. And they play common songs.
Oh,
and
cool.
It's a circle of musicians. And a person calls, the song and the key. And okay, what was that again? Okay, it was G. Okay, what was that? Okay, I walk the line, and everybody joins. It's not exclusive. It's inclusive.
Oh wow!
And that's my contribution.
It's like
the community,
the philosophy. See, I work with a lot of the jam bands down south, right in Stewart, and the guys in Cosmic Barley. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but they support a big jam band scene, and they're very much like that too, where the drum circles will just pop up somewhere, and there'll be 50 people just to gather and play and center on that vibe. I think that's probably something you guys feel in roots music too, is that it's a specialized genre, and the people that come to watch you or hear you know exactly what they're coming to hear and listen.
They're here to listen to the book. That's
so,
the book
yes,
of songs.
Exactly. And when you get those, if you have a group of heavy metal guys together, or a group of deadheads together, or a group of people that are into Americana, there's a vibe around the people that resonates, and you just kind of have to get involved in it. That's what I love about these scenes.
It's true. That's where I've pretty much going to the Rock the Porch Jam is where I've met pretty much all my musical contacts here since I've been playing. And the bluegrass guys people come from Vero Beach, and people as far away as up in Titusville, they all come down and meet, and that's where I've gotten a lot of my contacts and play with, and that's where I met Bee too. It's from there.
That's really cool.
So she uses it as
you guys don't know is they're former Long Islanders too, and we did not have that community on Long Island.
No,
maybe you might meet somewhere at a studio or something, but it was never where you could just go sit outside on a porch or go to the beach, and
Right.
It got too
I
damn
had to
cold.
split Long Island in 1979. I moved to Greenwich Village. I had to be in the village. I had to be where
Yes.
people in the music were. I had 3 bands I was in. I was actually working with David Peel.
Okay.
So I was in David Peel's band, and I had the Lost Souls. That was an initial, like, first level punk band, and we played like CBGBs in those
Right.
places and
Oh, poor
Copperfields. And
CBGBs.
yeah, well, they're not on
Don
Monday,
Hills. Was Don Hills around then?
Yeah.
Mercury Lounge. I had Elbow Room.
And then I was in a duo called Barshaw and Z, and we did a lot of good duo material that preceded B&Boo, and played on the streets and busked. And
Oh, yeah? That's fun.
in the village.
New
But
York
I
City
couldn't
busking
stand,
is fun.
on the island,
busking.
there was no connection for me for
No.
music. I had
There
to go to the
was-
city.
Because it was too stretched out. So
I guess so.
when you're in the city and you know that you're in the subway and you have buskers, street performers, then you get off the subway and you walk around the park or you walk to the village and you have street vendors and musicians and artists. It's just
There's
it's
a lot
everywhere.
of life there.
Yeah, because
and
we're all crammed into such a small, tiny spot. Where here, we got miles, between Vero Beach and
But
Palm
since
Bay.
we have Space Coast
That's
Harley
good.
Davidson and SCHD Outreach, we can all connect with each
Yes.
other. Also on Facebook, there is Jam Melbourne Beach. It's a group. So if you join Jam Melbourne
Jam
Beach,
Melbourne
you can follow where the acoustic jams are. And I also repost from Space Coast Harley Davidson.
Oh, cool.
And there's the site on Facebook for beinthehive.com or on Facebook. And Dave McDonald is on Facebook, and B. Zander and Jack Starr. Now, I kind of miss our guitar player. I wonder if he would join us.
Jack, come on,
Jack,
get in
Come
here.
on. So the core of Be in the Hive.
All
Is-
right.
is
This is
Dave-
the Hive. We're the Hive.
We are the core bees here.
All right.
We are.
So we're welcoming Jack Starr back to the conversation. He is also a member of the Hive.
Yes.
And if you're just tuning in, Jack, back from 1981, was in Virgin Steel. Then Jack Starr's Burning Star, and has done a host of other recordings and albums and tours. And I
never any roots music. And
no, but
that's why I'm
that's
thrilled
really
to-
cool. It's like Blackmore's Night,
Yes, right.
which is a whole other avenue that you would never expect to see Richie
Never
Blackmore play.
expected when he was
Oh,
playing
yeah.
Smoke on the Water that 30 years later he'd be playing medieval music.
Exactly.
Oh,
You know.
Have you heard it?
not yet.
You
But,
should.
but one of the
You should.
connectors,
The
blues-
mandolin wise.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
god!
this man,
I'm
sure
And
the
I know his
radio
bass
was like
his
that.
bass player is a good friend of mine, Mike, and he's a Long Islander too. Lives in St. James. Amazing. Plays mandolin, bass, and something else. But it's like, oh my god, his band is so talented.
Prodigy. He's good.
The
Yeah.
underpinnings to the music. I mean, blues is a roots music, and part of what you play, Jack, is blues.
Yes, and that's why I think we had this common denominator
We do.
where I wasn't totally alienated from what you guys were doing.
Mm-hmm.
So we had some,
Well, any music I think is a common language.
Well, it is a common
you
language.
can find your way through anything.
When we first started, we had probably 30 to 40 tunes that we had done, and Jack really had only heard of one of them before that.
Yes.
But yet he was able to jump right in, and because of his great talents, he was able to come pick with us, and really, it's a different style. It's just a different mentality of how to approach. And I'm coming from bluegrass, so hey, let's do some blues and let's go this way. And
You have to.
It's a
There's a
fun way.
band starting in Vero Beach called the Old Forge Mountain Boys.
yes, that's Tom Colino.
Okay, so you know them.
Oh,
Will-
yeah, so
Will-
he comes
Well,
from
those
You
are
know
all
Will
my
Keener
those are my
and-
bluegrass guys.
Really?
Yeah.
So and Matt and Bruce, you know those
Uh-huh.
guys? Okay,
Yeah.
amazing. I didn't know we all
Oh,
knew
Tom
the same
Colino
people.
came to the Porch Jam
Yeah,
a
Old
lot.
Forge
I
Mountain
can't
Boys. They're
wait
just
to
starting
see
do
them.
that. Yeah.
Oh, he's really good.
Everyone in that band is like uber talented, and
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear what
Well,
they do.
Would they please post on Jam Melbourne Beach? I want to see.
I
wanna see what
right?
they're
I
up
want to
to.
see what they're up to
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, they're getting together, and but Tom came from the fiddle player came from a total classical background, and to hear him talk, it was interesting because he figured out he was going to go and kick some butt. And when you go to a bluegrass jam, you really have to be able to improvise. And
Yeah.
people who sight read know how to sight read, and a lot of bluegrass people don't have that skill at all, but they listen, and this is how it goes. And
I found when you're dealing like with musicians, guys like Jack, you have to attribute to like a baseball player. When you have a guy that can hit the ball, they say that the guy can stand there at bat while the pitch is coming at 100 miles an hour, and he can see the stitches as they're spinning. Where you and I, average Joe, you can't do it. I think I'm not one of those guys. I have to actually sit down and teach myself things musically. But there are guys like Jack that can jump into any situation because they're gifted with the same ear that the pitcher has in sight. They can see the stitch of the music
It's an amazing analogy.
and join it, right?
Yeah, that is wonderful, Jack.
And it's also been helpful to me that these guys, these Hive members, really have been patient to show me this kind of music and open up a new world for me. So it's really been a great learning experience.
When you're a music lover and someone opens your eyes to something new, it's like blows your mind.
The more genres you can touch, the bigger your music gets. Even if one stays mostly in one, the more other experiences. When you gather more musical experiences, all of a sudden you become greater from it.
Absolutely. See, my dad was a New York City cop who'd come home, smoke a joint, put on his headphones with his German-made hi-fi system that he brought back from World War Vietnam era. That was like 9,000 watts, and he'd have Crosby, Stills, and Nash going, and then he'd switch over to Stevie Wonder album, and then he'd switch from there to Three Dog Night or.
You got a great ear from your dad. My dad was a musicologist by avocation.
Okay.
He was a newspaper editor, but he had like thousands and thousands of jazz records, and I grew up listening to, knowing one player from another. I could recognize
your
all that
parents
stuff.
really are the root of the beginning of what you know.
And the great stereo, and put the needle down right.
But tell me you never didn't when I was a teenager, right? I was stuck on heavy metal. That's all I listened to all the time. My dad's stuff was old man music, and I wasn't going to go back and listen to the old man stuff. Right. I'm going with Quiet Riot, and then moving my head with Metallica, and going with Guns N' Roses and Jack Starr's Burning Star and things like that. Then I reached like my 30s, and I started getting bored with the music that I'm listening to, and I go, you know what? Let me go through my dad's albums and let's see if I could. Al Jolson. Right? Somebody that I would never expect that I would love. Yeah. To pop that in, or Otis Redding, which is wasn't my gig at the time, and then sit back at it. Holy crap! It's like takes on a whole new world, and it's 55 years old.
You've got a new perspective.
Absolutely.
And you've learned what you've learned, and now you're looking at it with
what I like about Florida is in New York you kind of only had the heavy metal scene, and you had the copy band scene. Yeah. So, and there was the cover bands hated the original bands hated the cover bands. You didn't mix, you did your thing, and that was it. You didn't get to go and see an Americana band, and then get to go down the street and watch a bluegrass band, and then get to go. Now you can. There's a place in Deer Park, Matty T's, where you can see a country band or whatever. But we have much more variety in the types of music and the types of musicians that we could sit with here than I've ever seen. And I lived in Texas, lived in New York. I've spent time in California, and it's here. This is kind of a really weird little treasure area because we all want to gravitate and retire here and never go back to work.
Well, it's a cool place. You're not going to hear much bluegrass in New York because who from Kentucky? If you grew up in Kentucky or North Carolina, why do you want to go to Long Island? For the most part.
For the most part.
Well, like you're not going to go to Long Island for the barbecue either.
Exactly. And like we didn't have Mexican food growing up in Long Island. But
there's like Italian and Chinese.
Yeah, that was it. And bagels. You can't beat a New York bagel.
That's right.
Bagels and lox.
You can't find them here. And everyone keeps saying you can. Yeah. Brooklyn Water Bagel is close.
And we have 192 here. Is
it close?
There's
Yeah.
Einstein's on our gallery.
But it's not the same, though.
I love that bagel.
But where can you get lox that actually tastes like
that?
Lox?
I don't know.
Right?
I'll tell you where.
Look
Yeah.
later.
BJ's.
BJ's. You know what I had the hardest time finding because of a Yankee. I'm not Jewish, but because we are so everyone is so close there. You fall into eating the Jewish snacks or Jewish people eating Italian snacks. I couldn't find halava here. You know what halava is?
Yeah, it's so good.
My mom. Most people hate it. My kids hate it. My mom loved it, and she gave it to me as a kid. I got here. I'm like an addict to it. Couldn't find it. So I go on Facebook and I'm like, dear Florida Jewish friends, where can a Gentile find, and I get like 100 messages. Just go to Publix, you idiots. Sure enough, Publix.
Publix is pretty amazing. That's for sure.
So, our little area here is not as
homogenous.
It's not as separated from the world as people think. Back in the 80s when I moved to Texas, you couldn't find Yoo-Hoo. Now you
that
can find
chocolate
Yoo-hoo
cake, I remember
everywhere,
that.
you
Yeah.
know, or, you know, the little things of food. Like now you can actually get a New York pizza in Florida.
And you know, and for me, like getting back to the music, what was so interesting for me is that this music existed right under my thumb, and I didn't realize it.
Yes.
I didn't realize that there were people who were practitioners, if I can use that word,
Yeah.
of this ancient, maybe not that ancient, but you know,
Timeless sort
Turn
of
of the
music.
yeah,
The people's music.
1800s and the
and they were right here, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden, you know, well, first I met Bee, and then she explained to me that she plays Bee in the Hive, and that they play this kind of music, and I was like, what is it? And I had to actually see it and hear it, and I knew one song. He was telling the truth out of 30, and I knew it as a Dean Martin song.
Oh,
Since
wow.
I Met You, Baby.
Dean Martin.
straight, yeah, 12 bar blues.
And
song
he looked
that
at me
did.
kind of
Wow.
weird that Dean Martin had done it.
Yeah, I was like, Dean Martin, really?
And but it was great to hear this, and I really think that everybody, and I know there's a lot of people watching, and that are going to be listening and watching on the internet, who may be in the same boat that I was in, and I'm not ashamed to say I didn't know much about this music. So my message to these people is, do what I did. Be open-minded, check it out, because you might really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, a lot, you know, well, back to the bluegrass, a lot of the close 3-part harmony that Crosby, Stills and Nash did, and the early Byrds did, and the things that we take for granted now really were started back then in the 30s and the 40s.
Yeah.
Where
Andrew
they-
Sisters, even going to
yeah,
that.
all the brothers,
Yeah.
all the Monroe brothers and the Louvin brothers,
Yeah,
and they were doing
Louvin.
those harmonies, and then they put it in the third harmony. So all of a sudden, you know, Crosby, Stills and Nash, we take for granted these days.
Yes.
But it was really a mind-opening kind of concept. It was
And for
new
us, for
music.
being the Hive, we do so much harmony. Between Dave and me, and whoever else comes in, we pay attention to those vocals because
would-
it's such a pleasure to do that
It really
for
is.
listeners and players.
I was going to interject something, but I don't know if you guys are going to want me to do this, but
We can cut it out if we have
I've
to.
no. I've done like interviews everywhere, satellite radio, and you name it.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I did on satellite radio was I did something live. I played a guitar solo live, and I started a trend. The following week, Stryper were on, the Christian rock band.
Yeah.
The guitar player did a live solo. The following week, Queensryche was on. They did a guitar solo. A month later, Metallica was on. He did a guitar solo. But it was live. And what I would like to ask these two Hive members right now on your show
To
Warren,
sing for me live.
is to do a little bit of maybe one of the tunes. Like,
Oh.
We should probably do that Baskin Lamar Lunsford thing, and then we can just caterwaul.
Which one?
Oh, I wish I were a mole on the ground.
Oh, sure.
Or
You
anyone.
gotta find a pitch, huh? Yep.
Oh, I wish I were a mole in the ground.
Wish I were a mole in the ground. Mole in the ground.
I would root that mountain down. Oh, I
Wish I were a mole in the ground. There we go. That was
Nice.
killer. Huh?
that was great.
That's from
You
Mars
practice.
Hill.
Well, we've
North
done that
Carolina.
at least twice.
Mars Hill, Bascom Lamar Lunsford is quite well known in North Carolina for creating a lot of music out there. In the hills of the Appalachian Mountains, there's so much stuff that old English and Irish music just kind of sat in the hills and the families. And people just played music with each other.
Oh,
And there's a
cool.
lot of that kind of singing and instrumentation just kind of became something on its own.
If you think about it,
That's where that's
at the
from.
turn of the century, we didn't have TV, we didn't have radio, we didn't have that. There were books. People communicated. They would get together and they would play music. And you were considered literate if you read music. That's what they did. You didn't necessarily need to read words, but you knew how to communicate with others in the form of music,
Right.
and that's really where the roots were
Yeah,
happening.
But now you think back to the turn of the century, there were a lot of people who still couldn't read, write, or speak English, and music was the only way to
that was a
communicate.
universal
Oh,
language.
yes. What a
Exactly
connector.
right.
What a
Yeah,
connector.
absolutely.
Oh.
And what it does is, because I bring this up to in almost every interview, is it forces emotion. Music forces you to feel. So no matter what mood you wake up in the morning, if you surround yourself with music, you'll change your outlook for the day. It's a guarantee. But if you start your day with angry music, you're gonna be angry
Be a little
throughout the
angry.
day. You start your morning with something light, and doesn't have to be spiritual, but uplifting.
Yeah.
It's going to set your mood for the rest of the day and guide your spirituality, I guess I would want to say, into your
That would be an
life.
interesting scientific experiment.
Right?
You wake up and you listen to something in major versus you wake up and listen to something in minor and see if
Well,
it affected your day.
The test is personality.
What
I'm
you
a
go to sleep
pessimist.
with, too.
Oh, I'm an optimist.
Are
Oh,
you
good.
see?
Yes.
The
okay.
only way for me to change from being a pessimist to an
Mhm.
optimist
Mhm.
was to force myself every day, just like people have the calendars with the religious
sayings
or whatever. I got an inspirational one I would wake up in the morning. First thing I do is look at that calendar, and whatever it would tell me, I just think about it for a second. And I started to notice my personality did change, where I kind of lost that angry New York, Long Island guy, and opened up to more people and became more receptive to different things.
I was going to say that
Nice,
one. I
that's
was going to say,
softening.
where did all your anger go?
Yeah, right. There is none. I tell you, when I left. I love Long Island. I don't want to beat Long Island up.
No. We don't want to.
Can't afford Long Island, so
That's
being
the
able
truth.
to breathe a little easier outside made leaving Long Island.
But you do remind me of Fingers from WBAB.
Oh, Keith.
Keith Fingers.
He's down here all the time in Jacksonville.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Keith Fingers.
Bring
No
him up
kid,
together.
WBAB.
WBAB, yeah.
Yeah.
The home of Zebra.
Zebra. Yeah. Randy Jackson and
When I grew
Felix.
up on Long Island, I thought Zebra were like the Beatles because they played them like
All the
10
time.
10 times a day at least. And then when I left Long Island, I realized, they were only really popular in Long Island and New Orleans.
Yeah, and if you go back to Long Island, they still have a cult following.
Right.
And I can't figure it out. It
It's
was
amazing.
never my cup of tea, but
It's all good.
it's all good.
It's all
You got to
good,
support
yeah.
Long
Part of the
Island.
whole,
You
yeah.
got to support music, period.
And I know Randy Jackson is a wonderful guitar player and singer.
And singer, yeah.
And he played on my solo album.
Oh, really?
Solo album, and I did a version of a song by Floyd Kramer called "Last Date." You ever heard that song? It's an instrumental from the '50s that he played on the piano. Anyway, Randy played on it.
Oh, wow.
So I have to say only wonderful things.
Yeah, he's got a great voice
He does.
and amazing range.
And he plays great too.
You guys have gigs booked that we could talk about?
No, but check beandthehive.com.
Other than the Space Coast Harley Davidson
Well, I
stuff,
think
right?
that
We'll
there
be
are
having
gigs
here.
coming up here. It's
Yeah.
Right here,
Harley, Yes.
And what was the website?
beandthehive.com. That's beandthehive.com. Beandthehive.com.
I got to
And-
come check you guys
Oh,
out.
please do. And then
We'd love to have you come.
Cool.
come join us at the Jam, which is it's known as the Rock the Porch Jam on Facebook. But the site is Jam Melbourne Beach. It's a group. And it just has a music feed. Anybody can really post any music-oriented
maybe
stuff
I'll-
there. You can post.
We're going to connect when this is
Jam
done,
Melbourne Beach.
and maybe I'll come with the camera,
Oh, that'd be
Dude.
kind of fun.
right?
Second
And
and
we'll
fourth
set it up
Saturdays
and
at 1.
stream the circle and just
Oh,
let you guys
fun.
go for a while.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Oh, we do go.
So as we close, I want to thank Be in the Hive and Jack Starr for sitting with me for probably 3 hours today. Any other last tidbits of information you'd like to give out to people?
Well, what I would love to see is have them close out the show with another.
Mud
bit.
on my shoes, shoes on my feet. I've been walking up and down the street. Buddy, I've seen a thing or two. How's about you?
How's about you? Ain't you been walking too? I've seen a lot of good people and bad news. How's about you? Ain't you got something to say? Oh, I used to have $1.
Gonna have a dime someday.
Woo!
Yes, I used to have $1
Gonna have a dime someday.
someday. Ba-da-da-da-da. Ding-ding-ding. See, I would have been doing this a lot.
I love it though. These guys sound
Thank you
great
very
together.
much.
Thank you.
That was beautiful.
Thank you for sitting with me today.
Hey, Warren, it was very nice
It
to
was a
meet
pleasure.
you. It was fun.
I can't wait to come and see you guys.
Oh,
Jack,
great.
thank
Come
you
see
again.
Jack and Be in the Hive. And
Be in the Hive and Jack Starr. You guys can always find them at the SCHD, right? Is that it? SCHD
SCHD
Outreach on Facebook. You can find them at Bee and the Hive on Facebook, and Jack Star on Facebook, Burning Star on Facebook, and Black Star on Facebook.
It's all there.
It's all there.
It's all there. The good,
Just got to
the bad,
type in
the
Jack
ugly.
Star and you come up with everything. So make sure you keep tuning into the vibe and you keep spreading the vibe. It's important that you guys send the message out that we're all here to get new music, new old music out to you. Take care and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.